Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Mind X Muscle podcast. I'm Eleanor,
And I'm Nikki.
and today we have Tom Swales joining us. Tom is a highly respected physiotherapist and strength coach with over 20 years of experience in human movement, injury prevention, rehabilitation, and performance. He is the creator of the Advanced Movement Therapist Certification, which is an innovative education platform designed to help clinicians, personal trainers, or strength and conditioning professionals improve client outcomes by moving beyond pain and injury.
And as the founder of Com Physio in Barrie, Best Clinic in Barrie, Tom has worked with professional athletes across multiple disciplines and consults for Olympic and international sporting organizations too. So his extensive expertise paired with the talent for turning complex ideas into clear, practical takeaways is why we're super excited to have him on today. And he's also the owner of his own podcast too, called Staying Relevant, also available on YouTube and Spotify. So welcome, Tom.
Thank you, ladies. Thanks for having me.
Do you want to give a little background of yourself and just kind of, I know it's a lot, but a little summary of what got you to where you are today?
Yeah. I mean, most of us who get into the industry, it's, into the health and wellness side of things. We had this natural passion for sport or health or physique or, place movement X into the spot. And for me, growing up, playing all the sports, a little bit more specializing in kind of soccer, snowboarding, an interest in basketball. I just appreciated all sports for what they offer, whether it's in the water, outside the water, whether it's on snow, whether it's on ice, whether it's on land. Everything's fun to do. And when we get to experience the full array of what humans can do from an athletic perspective, you develop this greater respect and understanding of what it takes to be an athlete. When you have somebody who's truly athletic, they can adapt to any sport. Are they going to be the best at it? No, but they're going to have the fundamentals in which to have some level of success in it. So you'll see some athletes who are exceptional, but they're good at a lot of different things. They just decide to specialize in one thing. The ones who specialize too soon and they get really good at a sport doesn't mean they're a good athlete. So I always looked at, well, I like doing everything. So I just broadened my reach and my understanding in multiple different sports. And I brought it all together to specialize in soccer more so. I was a goalkeeper, so I'm not really a soccer player. So just taking that love and understanding and respect of human movement across specialized disciplines is really what drove me into, I know I'm not going to be a professional athlete and I never strive to be, but I liked working with them and I like being one. I like to try and push my body and my understanding of what I can do and then translate that to those that I help. And when you apply what you preach and you prescribe, then your understanding of it just reaches different levels, which is why at COM, we practice what we preach. You don't teach something unless you've done it yourself. So you truly have an understanding of what you do. And then that just led into the rehab, performance, athletic therapy, strength coaching, and all the other stuff later down the road.
Yeah. And you kind of specialize in many things versus one thing, taking that one avenue that will contain most of your energy, but now you can kind of make it more broad and help a little bit of everyone with everything.
Yeah. So being a personal trainer, being a strength coach, being an athletic trainer, now physio, doing osteopathic courses, doing acupuncture, getting different perspectives, different lenses to look through at the human body, was able to find kind of like this common through line of these fundamental principles that make up the individual human being. And that's kind of the foundation of the Advanced Movement Therapist certification, because I wanted to create simplicity in what we do as clinicians, practitioners, movement experts, but also build a greater level of understanding through fundamentals, through psychology, neurology, biology, chemistry, physics, movement. How did we learn, a neurodevelopmental model, building movement from the ground up? How are we organized? Top down, center out, right? Like these are things that apply to every single human being. It's finding where we need to start with the individual in front of us and what the specific needs are. And that's what really differentiates, an athlete from a general person, it doesn't really matter because we're finding what that individual needs at that time to quote unquote unlock their nervous system and get them moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and how they are even without the sports side of things, that just develops and reinforces with whatever they're doing now, whatever sport that they're focusing on, right?
They're moving in the three-dimensional space. They're living in this three-dimensional world, and all the laws of physics apply to every single person. And when somebody has an injury, it's like, well, why did that happen? Oh, well, your shoulder moves more than your neck and your T-spine. So maybe forces accumulated into the shoulder and causing a rotator cuff tear. Well, that's a physics problem. So once you start distributing forces across the three-dimensional being and then across through tissues, as opposed to accumulation in one, well, then we know why that shoulder got blown up because it's getting overused.
Yeah. And all of these issues, mainly a lot of bodybuilders are like they're complaining about now is they were already stemmed from or started from before. And now the way they're training, the way they're moving now kind of reinforces all of that. Kind of what I just said.
Or
Yeah,
even avoiding prevention.
right. I mean, working with the aesthetic athlete or the bodybuilder, it's very planar, right? Your job is to develop a physique that looks a certain way and which will incur some overuse and overdriven muscles because you're trying to develop certain muscle groups. Well, the connective tissues and the structures can get abused and beat up over time, or the joint can become imbalanced in its motor control or central control. So we have our chest day and triceps. We do pressing, and then we do a back biceps day. I'm not saying that's how people train, but that's kind of like the classic,
Typical bro
up there,
split.
You say the
typical
bro
bro
split.
split. The tricky thing with that is we might be doing too much push, which then rolls and folds the shoulders in. And then maybe we're not doing enough horizontal pull to counteract that the next day. Or what if we missed back day because we were sick? And then it cycles to the next week. Oh, well, we start Monday with chest. Well, now you train chest twice in 2 weeks and back 0
Hmm.
because it's the back muscles that that most of us have a problem with. I'm just using that as an example of how easily it is to get imbalanced with something like bodybuilding.
Yeah,
It
100%.
happens with every athlete. You strike, you rotate to one side. Well, are you doing any rotation the opposite way to counteract that? Golfing, tennis, baseball? No, probably not. Well, that's why you're jamming into your lower back, your neck's getting all cranked up, and your left shoulder's all jacked up. Well, because you've lost rotation the other way. So we need to do rotation that way to counteract what you're doing with your sport.
Well, it's not even for training for bodybuilders. If you think about posing, I know for guys, they're able to like transition to all sides, but let's say like for bikini, you literally
Right.
you have one side to the front. And for me personally, like I have disaligned hips because all of
Sure.
my weight always goes on one hip.
Right.
So I think like you being on the podcast today is going to be so beneficial for all the bodybuilders who are probably
For sure.
very disaligned.
Yeah.
That's so true. And going back to what you said, Tom, about you miss one day and now you're back to square one kind of thing, and you're kind of, feeling uneven. For bodybuilders too, like training can get so specific where if you're just trying to bring up one area, other areas tend to be neglected. Like say, okay, well, no, we don't, you have the chest size, you have the shoulder size. Now we're just maybe doing one set of that every 10 days. And then now we're really just focusing everything else. Like doing that for a long period of time can be hard. Like I know a lot of athletes who are like been in this for long term and they're kind of at where they need to be. There's kind of fine tuning. Their training can be all over the place. So that could also make things worse too. But that just goes like I tell some of my clients, well, if you're at this part, that's great, but you have now use your other time to do some other stuff that need to like it could doesn't need necessarily need to be loaded a ton like you are with your other movements that you're trying to grow, but just to help you prevent from other things taking over and compensating how they are, like,
I think it's easier said than done. I think a lot of the aesthetic athletes, they just like, well, you say, well, do other stuff. What does that mean? I don't know. What is other stuff? And for them, it just might be, well, maybe we just do lighter weight, or maybe we just do a different type of bicep curl, right? I think defining what other things are or accessory movements,
it's so specific.
it's so specific, but we could distill it down rather than, all right, we're doing deadlifts to develop the glutes and hamstrings. What about single leg deadlifts? Because now single leg deadlifts or single leg hinging will work on some of the stabilizers of the foot, ankle, and the hip and the trunk. So even something like that, you're still hitting those primary muscles. Are you hitting them as heavy? No, but you are forcing another stress on the nervous system and the neuromuscular system to adapt. And I often look at plateaus as protective. So athletes will hit plateaus on their bench press and their back squat and their deadlifts. And they're like, I can't get past this plateau. And I tell them, like, that's okay, because the adaptation for muscle and tissues and structure are very different. So muscles, we know, adapt 6 to 8 weeks, which is why when we first start working out, I can put 5 pounds on the bar every single week until you get to a certain weight, and then you can't put more weight on the bar. So that's the nervous system saying, no, 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 you don't get any more weight, because the tendons and the joints haven't caught up, because they take 6 to 9 months to adapt to that load. And if the body just kept allowing us to keep adding more weight to the bar, what do we usually injure? A joint or a tendon. Those are the failure points. So going back down, reducing the weight, spending more time under the bar or with that certain pattern to allow the structure to catch up is often beneficial. And then once the nervous system says, oh, you know what, structure's caught up, I'm going to take the brakes off. Because the primary job of the nervous system is brakes. It's not gas.
Yeah.
The primary job of the nervous system is don't hurt me, don't die.
Keep me
But if
safe.
you can
Yeah.
be safe, if
Protecting
the nervous
yourself.
system detects threat, it will create inhibition or weakness. It will create tightness to protect. That's its primary job. So if we're moving into pain, well, the nervous system's like, I don't like this, doesn't feel safe. I'm going to start shutting stuff down. Now, all of a sudden, we're trying to train through pain, but that's the signal to say, pay attention to me. Maybe we should find out why this pain is there. So when we're working with clients, just changing up the exercises might all that they need. Go from bilateral to unilateral, or maybe move in a different plane of movement. So you can do a squat, maybe press a band out in front of you or a chain to work on rotation as a squat. And all of a sudden now you can squat heavier weight. Well, because you worked on some of the stabilizers that control rotation before you loaded the bar. So playing in different planes of movement can be very beneficial to unlocking movement potential and new plateaus or new levels of strength. And if you're stronger, well, you can add more muscle because you've got greater potential from adding muscle.
Yeah. That's so important. And also to prevent other areas from taking over and compensating too. So now you're loading something that you're not even trying to load and you're not making any progress from there.
Right.
So
Yeah.
this is the perfect title of the episode today. Yeah, you look great, but can you move? Because there's lots of things that we can focus on. We have our cardio, we have our workouts, we have the meals, but there's everything there's still those small stuff we need to do in between to help all these things improve. So yeah, basically we want to zoom out and talk recovery and rehab as a whole through the bodybuilding lens. We want to also pick your brain about your experience as both the physio movement coach to unpack those common injuries too that the injuries could lead because all this stuff going on. Even what bodybuilders should be doing more of or less even to move and perform better and to
Yeah.
recover better. And then we also want to take a shift to the mental health side of things and the emotional challenges of being either sidelined by an injury and whether performance and sports psychology should be more like deserve a bigger seat in the rehab world and what you see with that.
Okay. Where do you want to start?
Let's start a
We're
bit
gonna do
broad.
Yeah. Well, we're
Which
gonna
one?
start with a little quick fire.
Let's do
Ooh,
some quick fire questions first.
We're
sure.
gonna
Why
pick
not?
your brain before we really pick your brain. Okay, are you ready?
Always.
Okay, dumbbells or kettlebells?
Me personally, kettlebells.
Okay.
Now, the reason for that is they're just more versatile because you can swing them and you can get ballistics and it's an off-centered weight. So there's greater versatility for stabilization, for speed, for power, for a lot of it's just more variable, more adaptable tool.
Knew you'd say that one.
A mobility or stability?
You can't do one without the other. So if you can be very flexible, but if you don't have control or strength in that range of motion, you're unstable and that will cause problems. If you only train stability, but you're very stiff, it's going to create more stiffness. So oftentimes we improve mobility by adding stability in the right areas. And for a lot of people, it's providing stability and control around the spine. And as soon as they have stability in their spine, hamstrings don't feel tight anymore. Hip flexors don't feel tight. So by stabilizing one thing, you create mobility someplace else.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So both.
So
Both.
both.
Yeah.
Training in the morning or in the evening?
whenever you can, because it doesn't matter the timing. It matters the time that you can consistently show up.
Yes. What's one cue that you say all day long?
Mm.
Maybe there's a few, but
It's like just
It depends on what they're doing, but my one consistent across every all movements is breathing. Where are you breathing?
breathing, focus on that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Foam roller or massage ball?
Foam roller for the majority, unless I have some kind of small area that I can't get at.
Be
But
more specific. Yeah.
yeah, if I need to go deeper or spend a little more time specific, but for majority, what I use is foam roller unless I have something a little bit more specific.
Yeah. You can do a lot more with the foam roller too, like when we're
Yeah.
flossing and fascial stuff. Favorite joint to work with, least favorite joint to work with.
Least favorite joint, hands and wrists, because once you bugger those up, they are pretty screwed. There's no stabilizing muscles around that. So once you loosen those ligaments, it's stabilize them, brace them, tape them. So hands and wrists are probably my least favorite, but we still have good success with it as long as structure is not compromised. Probably favorite, I like hips. It's a driver of power. Most people have hips that suck. And once you get hips moving, back pain goes away, foot pain goes away. A lot of things get better just by working on better hips.
The time the pain and stiffness people feel is in the hips, but it's not always coming from the hip too. That's what I find.
Yeah. Yeah. It's often low back problems, stability problems. It could be a foot problem. Typically, wherever you feel the pain is typically not the problem. It's
Yes,
someplace else. That's just a signal it's getting driven the loudest.
exactly. All right, let's start broad here. So, in your opinion, what does moving well actually mean for a bodybuilder type of athlete?
Moving about your environment pain free and not inhibited to try and do other activities. Meaning, if you're a bodybuilder and you want to go play basketball or you want to go for a jog or you want to pick up your shoe without hurting your back, to me, that's like it's movement freedom. If we're compromising our overall athletic ability to move about the environment because of some specialty, we have to sit back and ask ourselves, is this worth it?
Mhm.
Is this venture giving me that much more joy than me sitting here with no energy? My back is killing, my neck is killing, my shoulders are killing me. I'm not sleeping well, and I can't play or do the other things that I want to do.
That
And
gives you
that's
no longevity in the
there's no
sport and in
longevity.
life.
Right. But I mean, that's an individual choice that people have to make for themselves. But from an athlete perspective for bodybuilders, it's, how much are you pushing yourself? How hard, how quick? Are you giving yourself enough time to adapt to the stresses? And did you give yourself enough in the tank to manage the stresses of everyday life? Because unless you're a professional bodybuilder where your job is just to eat, sleep, train, and that's it, and then do that again, most people have kids, they're married, they have other obligations, they have a job. You need energy and you need to show up in those other realms. But if you're sacrificing those for the cause of bodybuilding, that is it is it going to provide joy, or is it positive, or is it a negative aspect of your life? So again, people have to judge that for themselves. But at the end of the day, you should be adaptable and versatile. And if an illness comes, you need to have a reserve for that too. If you don't have reserve, you're in.
One of the biggest game changers in my clinical practice has been becoming certified as an advanced movement therapist. I use this AMT system in my practice to guide clinical decision making and measure change before and after each session. Without guessing, I can clearly assess what's working, validate the effectiveness of my treatments, and confidently communicate progress to my clients. With the AMT system, you'll gain the knowledge and tools to deliver precise, effective treatments by mastering your approach to functional neurology and movement therapy. So, if you're a therapist, trainer, or clinician looking for better outcomes, stronger clinical reasoning, and more confidence in your treatment approach, check out the AMT certification by clicking the link in the description.
Big trouble.
Another thing too, like bodybuilders often have a harder time with movement and end up with more of those aches and pains, not because something's wrong, but because of how the sport actually shapes the body too. Like training is always very repetitive and more hypertrophy focused, which makes muscles strong in certain ranges, but leaves the joints and tissues less adaptable outside of that.
Right. I think a lot of the fear around not working those extra movements or muscles or patterns is they think it's going to interfere with muscle growth. Oh, well, if I do these movements, it's going to take away energy and resources from building. No, it's not. Actually, it's going to improve it because it's going to shift your nervous system into a state of parasympathetic and balance where the healing happens. We're not adding extra stress, but we're creating balance in a system to allow it to repair more optimally simply by moving it in different ways and getting it to feel better. But if you're training into pain and the body's in pain all the time, that's a sympathetic state. There's no healing and progress going. But if we get it feeling good, safe, my back doesn't hurt, shoulders don't hurt, great. Well, now you can digest food, now you can eat, now you can recover. So I think it's getting their heads around, take another 5 to 10 minutes at the end of your workout, do some Jefferson curls, do some shin box exercises, do some pigeon stretch, get a dowel and open up your shoulders again after you did bench press and watch the pump that comes on. Because oftentimes I'll get a better pump doing mobility work than doing a full workout. Because when we contract a muscle, what does it do to the muscle? It contracts all the blood out. But if it doesn't expand and relax again, well, the blood is shunted. So by doing mobility, it's going to improve the pump because you've just relaxed those muscles, the blood vessels, the nerves are sliding again, and everything opens back up. Well, now nutrients can come back into the tissues for recovery. But if you leave the muscle contracted and tight and you just walk away and go home and eat, well, the muscle's, we're going to call it stuck. It's closed. There's no nutrients coming in because it's still, you left it in tone. But if you get it out of tone and get it relaxed again, reset the muscle spindles, well, now recovery can happen.
Yeah.
Right.
And then it's good to get your body back into that rest and digest too. So when you do go home and eat, you can probably digest your food. Things are working
Right.
properly.
Yeah. But if you're still in that sympathetic state, if you just ran from the gym to go home and eat and you didn't take 5 minutes to downregulate the system, well, your body's still in fight or flight for the next couple hours. And that food sitting in your stomach's going to rot. And now you have digestion problems.
And we need to digest our food to make the gains,
Yeah, we want the food to go to the right places.
Yeah.
I was going to say, though, those 5 to 10 minutes that a lot of people avoid after their workout, a lot of people don't get injured. And when they get injured, that's when they realize, okay, I could have taken those 5 to 10 minutes to do what I needed to do instead of, let's say, take 6 months off because of a tear or not be able to train the way that I do for the rest of my life because I got injured.
Well, it's not prioritizing the recovery aspect because where does adaptation and growth happen? It doesn't happen in the gym. It happens outside the gym. But you have to shift your state from a sympathetic to a parasympathetic, or else growth doesn't happen, or else repair doesn't happen and recovery doesn't happen. So that's why that 5 to 10 minutes at the end of a workout is so critical to actually get the gains from the workout.
Yeah. And I tell my clients too, like in order to be able to balance this type of aesthetic sport and also prioritize a long-term health in this sport is you spend like over an hour sometimes like deep in prep doing cardio and the prepping our food. I was like, we do all these things. So a lot of the more specific stuff to help with all these factors are left on the back burner. But I tell my clients, just take an extra 10, 15, X amount of days a week, whatever you need to do, and start with these small things based on their assessment and things that they need to do specifically. Just take that extra little bit as soon as you get to the gym or before you leave the gym. Don't say I'm going to do it when I get home because that's probably not going to happen. Whatever works for that person. I say you can spend all this time doing, your food training and cardio, but just take this extra time and do, start small, start with this one thing. It's going to help you progress even faster. Depends what they have going on, but
For sure. But I would rather they short their workout 10 minutes to make time for that than try and squeeze in another couple sets of an exercise and then rush out of there. Those last couple sets under the fatigue is probably not going to do that much, but the recovery is going to do that much more just by shifting your nervous system into a state of recovery.
yeah, make you progress so much faster. So can you share a story where going back to the basics completely changed a client's recovery or performance? Like, why do we tend to overlook these essentials and how can focusing on them accelerate results? Because people think they need to add in all this crazy stuff, but sometimes it's just the basic stuff, stabilizer stuff and breathing even to focus on that'll help them progress, not
Breathing's a
all
big
this
one.
crazy stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've worked with quite a few aesthetic athletes, bodybuilders, and some of the common things is my knees hurt, my back hurts, my shoulders hurt. I was like, okay, we got all these areas of pain. Oftentimes we'll go in and we'll assess, and there's nothing structurally wrong, but the pain is real. And one of the main things that a lot of them come in with is yes, they have six pack abs and they very defined muscles, but they have no inner core. They can't breathe. They can't set the inner core. And they're always saying, well, I can't get my taper in. I can't get tapered. I can't get everything bulges out. The job of the transverse abdominis is to taper us in. It's the corset, but it's the internal reflex stabilizing muscle that works with the diaphragm. And it's supposed to come on at a reflex level to protect the spine. But when we're doing bending and twisting and we're working in the rectus and the obliques and the outer global muscles too often, or we're doing too much back squat or too many big lifts that incorporate the big muscles, just like a lot of small muscles, those inner core muscles, they fall behind and we lose the ability to utilize them. So I'll have them, I'm like, okay, I'll have them find out where their breathing is and then just set their transverse abdominis on the end of an exhale, meaning breath in, exhale, purse lips. They finish the exhale, they pull the belly button in, and then I'll have them hold a dead bug. And then 45 degrees and they're sitting there shaking. I'm like, sweet, I can put a can of paint on your belly and we can get this mixed. But they don't realize how weak they are until I put them in that position and they're like, oh my God, I can feel that. I'm like, yeah, but we need to stabilize here. You've worked on all the peripheral stuff and got them all big, but you left this behind. And your nervous system knows that. And when the nervous system detects that the periphery or the outside muscles can manage more force than the inside central muscles, it doesn't like it. Because how were we designed as babies? Babies spent a bunch of time rolling and crawling on the ground. Why? Develop the central structures. And then once nervous system got organized, now it's like, okay, now we can get up and start sitting and standing and we can work the peripheral. But not until there's enough strength and control in the center before they're allowed to do that. But we're athletes. We can hide our deficiencies and we're really good at it until we get the signals sent off and the body's saying, I've had enough. From a functionality perspective, not only does it help the low back pain by going after these basics of bird dogs and crawling and side planks and front planks and whatnot and getting their breathing, it tapers them in. They're all of a sudden like, my shoulders look bigger, like because they use in those deeper muscles to help the aesthetics. But I tricked them. I improved their function, and the function dictated their form. So we can often look at, okay, yes, this seems like an accessory thing, and no, it doesn't build a big six pack, but it makes things look nice and tight, and my back doesn't hurt, but it gives you a better foundation in which to build more structure on top of. So that's an example of, without, naming names, but how quickly it improved their performance on stage, but also improved their strength, their pain, their movement, just by going after some groundwork, just simple dead bugs, rolling, crawling, bird dogs, and then progressing up into anti-rotation stuff.
Yeah. And I find when I mention any sort of core work to a few of my clients, they're like, oh, I'm not allowed to train core. My core can't get any bigger. I'm like, no, we're not, doing loaded crunches. We're not doing the crazy stuff. Like this is just activating everything like what you just said. And it's going to help with their posing and everything else. So it's just
Actually,
that
yeah,
initial scare.
me and Nikki were talking about this yesterday. We both said we haven't trained abs in because I didn't train abs last season, and I remember you said you didn't train abs last season either. But then at the
Yeah.
same
Like
time, we both looked
loaded.
at each
Yeah.
other. We both looked at each other, and we understood that when we say we don't train abs, we still train our core. We still make sure that our breathing, our vacuums are all done. But I actually really wanted to ask you. I
Yep. Yes. Yeah. So the vacuum is where you breathe in, right? And you hollow. Is that the right? So you're kind of sucking in here. The problem with that is it paralyzes the diaphragm, right?
Okay.
For a look. What we're talking about when we're bracing, when we're doing an internal transverse abdominal set, if you try it right now, so both of you sit up, okay, put your hands around kind of your obliques, take a breath in through your nose, and then exhale through pursed lips and empty all the air. Now let me know which direction your core muscles went in or moved. Did they go in or did they go punch out?
And
In.
And
Right. So that's transverse abdominis. Now, if you keep your hands there and you take a breath into your belly and you hold your breath and you bear down, which direction did the pressure go?
it's going out.
Goes out. Okay. Both strategies, okay, we need to stabilize our back. But the first strategy, when we exhale, set the inner core, and then we take a hard inhale on top of that, the transverse abdominis acts like a corset. It lengthens the spine, decompresses. But then when we get the obliques and the outer core system, the global system, it compresses. We don't want to compress right off the hop because now we've compressed discs and joints. If we created space first with the transverse or the inner core muscles and then compressed, we're in a better position and
right.
it looks better and it functions better. So when we're trying to stabilize, move weight, strike, kick, whatever we're doing, we want to do that with a type of bracing where we create this hard cylinder. When you're doing your hollowing, that is kind of deactivating. All that's doing is just creating a vacuum to kind of suck in the waste to create the image of a smaller waist.
Okay.
One is purely aesthetic and one is functional.
So I guess my question is doing the aesthetic version, is that detrimental long term?
Yes, I'm going to say yes, because the more you practice something, the more the brain learns that that's the default pattern,
Normal.
right? It becomes the new normal. And then when you try and lift or reach for something and you're doing this hollow position, you just extended the spine, compressed it, deactivated the diaphragm, and there's no core muscles. So again, doing sport specific things, understanding that, but making sure we're doing things outside of sport to make sure that the sport specific movements don't cause problems in our everyday life. It's no different than working with hockey goalies or tennis players or whatever it is, right? They're going to be one side dominant. They're going to do a lot of things repetitively. Are they great for their body? No, but they need to do it for their sport. But making sure that that shoulder, those hips are staying stable, the back is nice and has good control so that we don't have groin injuries and we don't have rotator cuff problems. We're not going to tell them to stop doing the sport, but we just make them aware of like, just because you do this repetitively, it will cause problems and imbalances. We just need to stay on top of that. So we just create a little self-awareness, check some basic movements. Movements are clean. Great. Move on. As soon as things get imbalanced a little bit, maybe we correct that before it gets away from us and becomes a bigger problem.
Yeah. So don't stop what you're doing, but let's help make you do
Yeah.
it better.
Yeah. Is that like a big myth that you've heard that like if you have an injury, you have to stop? I hear that all the time from practitioners. They'll tell you just stop training this muscle. And it can get really annoying as an athlete when someone tells you you
Sure.
need to stop training.
So the first question I ask is, why do we have that pain there in the first place? Right? If we're overusing something, why is that happening? Are we not using something on the opposite side? Is there a force distribution problem? Is it a force management problem? Like, let's find out why that muscle's. So I partially agree is, let's give it a break so we don't keep irritating it, but we got to find out why. Just stopping exercise is dumb. Okay.
Agreed.
Giving something a break for a couple days, that's a good strategy, right? But don't give it a break and then go back to it because it's going to come back. Just resting it is not going to do anything because now you're giving it 2 days off. Now things are deconditioned. So find out why that pain is there, but you can always do stuff around it, right? If you got a cranky shoulder that doesn't like bench press, well, get on the Olympic rings or do dumbbells. How do dumbbells feel? Oh, dumbbells don't hurt. Great, do that. You can still do stuff. But sometimes we don't want to put square pegs in round holes just because the program said bench press for chest today, but it's hurting. Well, I can do dumbbells because it frees up the shoulders and the elbows. Well, do that. Or do push-ups or do Olympic rings, something, or do machine. But the other side of it is I'm not encouraging people to just ignore it by ignoring that exercise. Still find out, why is that pain there? Because the pain is a signal saying to pay attention and something might be off. So I'm going to say I partially agree is give that particular tissue a break, but you can still train around it because there's always something to work on.
Okay.
What's another myth that you've encountered, I guess, in the world of recovery and movement?
I think sleep is getting really good attention these days on how important that is. And The more we train, probably the more sleep we're going to need because it's our way to manage stress and repair tissue and clean the brain and detox. And we'll see this often with shift athletes, athletes who work on, 12-hour shifts or 24-hour shifts and their circadians are off. Sleep has to be prioritized. Absolutely. It's the number one performance enhancer. Growth hormone, testosterone, all the stuff gets better when we have good sleep. So trying to train yourself, putting training over sleep is unless you're young, we can kind of get away with it for a period of time, but it will catch up. I would prioritize sleep over a training day.
I'm
If
so
you're really
happy
behind on
that
sleep,
no sleep for the week has taken a backseat in society.
yeah,
It's getting talked about a lot more because that's huge.
right.
And you're not better than everyone else just because you are
No,
not sleeping because you need to train more. Like, no.
right. Because it's for a lot of people just training and wanting to look good. It's a longevity game. And the end game is if you hit the end game, you're dead. Like the end of the game is death. The point of the game is how long can I keep playing the game? But if we're pushing ourselves to the point of pain and suffering and my mental health is suffering, that's not a good game to play. We need to sort something out. We need to balance something out. We need to fix something. The point of the game is to keep playing the game. And how long can you play it for?
Yeah.
Right? Unless you have some specific timeline where like, I have a show, I have an event. Fine. We periodize. That's a small chunk of time, but you still prioritize the fundamentals of sleep, recovery, nutrition, mobility, just to create the environment to perform better.
Fueling shouldn't feel like a second job, especially when you're deep in prep, reverse, or just balancing real life. Prep Shop Toronto provides daily ready-made meals and bulk protein options that keep you consistent without spending hours cooking or tracking your meals. When nutrition is handled, your energy is steadier, recovery feels smoother, and your mind isn't stuck in food with math all day. That means less decision making, better training focus, and more mental space to actually live your life outside of the gym. Head to Prep Shop Toronto or email hello@prepshop.ca and use code Eleanor at checkout.
But one of the things, sleep, I'm glad is people are now paying more attention to it. The other side of things is, some of the hormone replacement is getting not vilified. People are looking at it as like supplements now.
Oh my God. I
So
know.
rather than, oh, I got to go on TRT, I was like, yeah, but you're only sleeping 5 hours a night. Maybe if you slept 8 hours, you probably wouldn't need to go on that.
Yeah. Let's cover
Maybe,
all the factors first before we start
right.
looking into the next thing.
Like the pharmaceutical stuff, it seems like it used to be taboo, to talk about it. Now it seems like everybody wants to do everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, Jesus Christ. But people want to be so hard charging sometimes and coming back to not prioritizing sleep. Well, because sleep is for the weak. I have shit that I need to get done. They'll just rather go to synthetics. I was like, yeah, but there's a cost to that.
And these are such extra stressors on the body too, that just adds to the pile of everything else
And
going
it's a
on.
lifelong commitment.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yes.
it. You're committed. So, I have, men, friends of mine who are in their mid 40s and they're open about it. I'm like, yeah, sweet. Like as long as it's controlled by your doctor, then cool. But I'm like, but there's so many other things you could have done
Like
to,
sleep.
yeah, like nutrition's dialed in, your training's dialed in. It's like, all you need is sleep. And it
Yeah.
probably
And
would have
all
probably
those factors,
bumped
they'll
you
go
up a
up.
couple 100 points,
Yeah.
And I
right?
think something that should be addressed is it's not even the length of sleep, but also like, are you getting your REM sleep? Because that
Quality,
matters, right? Like it's the quality of your sleep that matters so much. I could tell you right now, I sleep 10 hours a day, but then you'd ask me how many times I wake up.
right?
Am I really
Yeah.
sleeping 10 hours a day? Am I really getting where I need to get to? Probably
Yeah.
not.
So your architecture is off, right? Are you getting 5 cycles of, deep REM sleep? Are you getting a total of 2+ hours of each of REM and deep sleep? Like the quantity and quality matter with sleep. It's not just the number. And some people are very efficient sleepers. Some they can keep crushing at 7 hours, but you look at their deep sleep and REM sleep patterns, you're like, oh, you got 2 hours of each. Like you're doing good.
Oh, yeah.
Others are less efficient, but it all depends on what did you do that day? Like, did you drink too much caffeine close to bed? Did you eat too late? Is your stress managed? Are you sick? Like, there's lots of things that can interfere. Are you exposed to too many artificial lights too close to before bed? It's like some people are just more sensitive than others. So setting up your environment for a better sleep the day before is a key factor to getting better sleep. So what you do during the day is going to determine how well you sleep at night. People don't realize that. They just think, well, I can just keep crush, 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 and then pass out.
Right.
Is that sleep or is that exhaustion? Because that's a different thing.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah, and all these things tie in, especially like in prep, deeper in prep when your body's under so much stress already. And like you have, the PEDs added in and your body, like that puts your body under even more stress. And then all like the mental health side of things come up too, which we also wanted to get into a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, when you're in your prep mode, you get so depleted. You're reducing calories. You're limiting water, especially as you get closer to it. Like there's working with some of them, they just come in like zombies. I
Yeah.
was like, when's your show? He's like, 5 days. I'm like, yeah, I can tell. Like they barely have enough energy to come into my office. I was
Yeah.
like, and you had to work today? How does that work? But,
Yeah.
but again, that's part of the sport. And I think, Nikki, you've been doing this long enough. I think you've gotten smarter on how you do it because when you first started doing this, you'd come in and just like zombie woman. And then
Yeah, you've
each
seen me through a
year,
few
each
preps now.
go, you get better and you're like, you're just doing it smarter. Right. But it comes with wisdom with that experience in each trial because you're finding new iterations to do it so that
Exactly.
you can continue to function as a human being in society and
Yeah,
not
and
just as
life
one
doesn't
that lives.
stop either, like we covered before, like I got my job, I got my other life outside of this, like I'm trying to doing the extra things to keep me going longer and to look at the longevity and just my
Yeah.
life in the sport too.
Yeah.
And plus my job, like I have a physical job too, like I need to make
Yes,
sure
you do.
I'm moving good at the gym and at work, like there's so many things you have to be on top of.
Nick, your job isn't just physical. You're communicating with people all day,
You
right?
gotta be
Like
sharp.
that's hard to keep that up. That's hard.
It's weird though, I feel like that helps me. Does that make sense? Like, my clients give me energy, like, people at work give me energy, like, which is great. Obviously, they're when you're super, super close to a show, a lot of it, like, I come home and I'm like, "Ooh, that was, like, more of a exhausting mentally day," but for the most part, it gives me energy.
Your environment does dictate that. We are energetic beings. Like when you look at what we're actually made of, yes, it's tissues. And then you look at the tissues, and the tissues are made of cells, and the cells are made of atoms, and the atoms are made of quarks. Well, what are atoms and quarks? Empty space. But they vibrate at a specific frequency that can be perceived in the three-dimensional world by the five senses. So that's why matter matters. But at the end of the day, when you look at what we're actually made of, it's just vibration, frequency, and energy. So you can feel when somebody's had a bad day because their heart frequency, their vibration, their magnetic field is out of coherence with yours. So that's how we can feel if someone's off because it's not meshing. It's subconscious, but we feel it. But coming back to what you said is when you're in a place of coherence, when you're in a place of positivity, that energy feeds you. It doesn't deplete you.
Yes, exactly.
Hmm.
Let's get into a little more of the mental health side of things. So what are your thoughts on how being a therapist is one like a physiotherapist, massage therapist, that's one thing. But sometimes we feel like we can be the other side of things, like they're psychologist almost sometimes. So how do you think like more sports because we have our, day to day, more like clinical psychology kind of stuff, but do you think that more of sport or performance specific psychology should be more common, like, in the rehab space?
It's important to have that professional in your network if you need to refer. Now, again, coming back to our aesthetic athletes, they're getting close to a show, they're depleting. Are they, are they going to feel kind of sad, low energy, depressed? Maybe, but that could be just because their body is not responding well, right? So part of our jobs is we're not psychologists, we're not psychotherapists, we're not diagnosing, we're not trying to help with that. But if we can coach them to help them realize, like this time in your life that's intentionally stressful, right? It's going to make you feel and think things differently. Now, as long as there's no red flags popping up, then we can probably just be like, make sure you're hydrated, make sure you're moving, get some sunlight. Like a lot of those things are just like when you move, you feel better, right? When you're doing things, you feel better.
Yeah.
When we sit and we're ruminating and we're alone, that makes us feel terrible, right? So we'll go through it, going through the body to make the body feel good, to affect the mind and the psychology. That's where we can shine, right? But if our clients or athletes are coming in with disruptive thoughts or, any kind of ideation or anything along those lines that kind of gets the hair on the back of your neck up, that's when it's time to refer out.
Refer. Yes.
That's when it's time to, you know what? We should probably talk to somebody about this. I'm not that person. This is outside of my wheelhouse.
Outside of my scope. Yeah.
And being open and honest about it. Like if someone starts to dump on us and you're like, ooh, this is outside. It's okay to be like, I hear you. This is outside of my scope of practice. This is outside of my wheelhouse. I have somebody in my network I want you to reach out to. And having that person in your back pocket in your network is always helpful. And tell them I'm going to have so-and-so call you to reach out because maybe they won't do it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where we advocate for them, but we want to be careful not to cross that
Setting boundaries.
threshold of scope.
Tell them to call Eleanor. And Eleanor's actually, she's wanting to specialize in this side of stuff, like through sports
Mm,
and performance psychology, because she also thinks it's not as common as it should be.
yeah.
Nope.
So,
And I've dealt with my fair share of injuries. I could give you a whole book if you really had the time, but I think I think the most debilitating part about having an injury and then also competing is you have that set date of a goal, right? Like the show. Or even an off season where like you kind of have learned to make the most progress from it. When you're injured or when you are working with a practitioner and they tell you like you need to rest, you need to take time off, it is so mentally debilitating because how do I say this? Like at the end of the day, like you have a specific purpose of why someone comes to see you. It's most of the time something physical. So I guess like you said that if you see someone or hear someone and you hear that ideation, that's your biggest proponent. But when is it time to actually have someone like referred, right? Because I'm going to challenge you. I don't think it just has to do with ideation. I personally believe everybody needs therapy, whether you're in a really great spot or whether you're not. But especially if you are an athlete, especially the last like 4 weeks of prep, you get to a point where you can't trust yourself. I know personally for me, the last week of my show, I refused to drive because I don't trust myself.
right.
So,
Yeah. And you come from that other side of things as the athlete, but then also as the clinician, right? So that's why you can speak better on this. I haven't had too many athletes come in. They're coming in with just the physical stuff and they're mental, emotional. They're tired. So it's just like, are you sleeping? Are you recovering? Are you doing all the stuff? But I agree with you. It is helpful for a lot of people to just have that outlet, to have that outside voice or that outside lens to look at, am I doing everything right? I'm having, these doubts, I'm having this confidence issue, whatever it is. That can be very helpful for a lot of people for sure.
yeah.
And oftentimes people will ask, hey, do you know anybody in your network that I can talk to about this? Yeah, for sure.
Right.
And I find it's important to, obviously we cover this in health history forms and stuff when in that initial assessment, but knowing if our clients already have an underlying, mental health thing going on, or if they've been diagnosed in the past, because obviously anxiety or certain mental health conditions that someone might have can also affect the body in a lot of different ways too.
This
Yeah.
plays
The majority of drugs that don't make it to market is because when they bump them up against or compare them against placebo, placebo wins 95% of the time. So our brains are a chemical factory and thoughts create hormones and neurotransmitters. When someone thinks that they're getting a molecule to help with a condition, miraculously the body makes it, which is why most drugs don't make it to market. because the body is a chemistry set. We're composed of those five elements. Chemistry is one of them. Nutrition, breath, that all affects our chemistry. But they can also be a poison. Thoughts can poison us just as much as they can heal us. So what we think, and again, coming back to physics, coming back to we're just energetic beings. Well, what's a thought? It's a specific frequency. What's that frequency doing? It's carrying information. Where is it carrying the information to? To the cells of the body that are all communicating at once. Well, if they're getting a specific signal that's low frequency, those cells can start to become sick and they can start to act inappropriately. Now, all of a sudden, the organism that is composed of those cells is now sick or injured or has pain. So the mind has a tremendous control of the body. It's a two-way street. We respond to what we feel, but we also
Right.
respond to what we think. And if we can take advantage of that two-way relationship, mind, body, and then also spirit, then we can create better balance and happier little athletes.
100%.
Yeah. I like how you kind of talk about it as like a holistic perspective.
Yeah. I mean, the longer I've been doing this, when I started my career, I was like, I'm just going to be a sports physio. That's it. I work with the body. And I almost failed physio school from neuro.
Did you?
I'll admit that. Yep. I almost failed. They pulled me into the office. They're like, you got a 58 on neurophys, and I'm like, I know. And my buddy got a 58 too, because you need a 60 to pass a class. So we studied our asses off for the finals. He got a 97, I got a 96 on the finals, so we passed that class. And then neuroanatomy, I was also on the cusp, and I needed to get like an 80 on the final or 62 something. The professor intentionally fails people on the finals because it's the entire year. And I was stressing because I'm like, I'm going in with a 62. And most of my
Yeah.
classmates are going with an 80. And I'm like, I'm so screwed. I'm going to fail. I got to take this again. Anyway, I got a 62 on the final. I came out with a 62. Coming back to that, I was like, I'm never touching neuro again. And then once I finished my stint with the ski team, getting more into the orthopedic side of things and pain, and I was like, God damn it, everything's neuro. So I started diving into that. And then
Everything's
we're
neuro unless proven otherwise.
That's right. Everything's neuro until proven otherwise. But then understanding working with more people and different individuals and not just athletes, the mindset has a tremendous impact on how, if they get better or not, because if they don't believe that they're going to get better, they will not get better. So changing their beliefs in that first couple of discussions, they were told by a physician or another expert, oh, you should never do this again. You've got degenerative this, you've got, this syndrome. Like those are just labels. That's all it is. Those are just diagnoses for us. They don't make who you are, and you're not broken. And as soon as we show them, like, look, we can get you to move better. We can get you to pick this up. Oh my goodness, my pain's gone. Well, now their belief system's changed.
Mhm.
So now I started realizing we need to affect somebody's psychology in that first appointment by showing them through their nervous system and their body that they're very capable of doing the things that they believe they couldn't do. So creating that change and that belief was the first barrier that we need to break down. But I also need to create communication and connection and trust and safety in that first conversation because people are coming in vulnerable. And once I've established that, now their nervous system starts to shift. Oh, this is a safe environment. I can move. I can expose myself. Okay, great. Let's do some muscle testing. Let's look at your nutrition. How are you sleeping? Right. So you start to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. And that's where I kind of came up to better understand the individual human being, getting to know those five realms of psychology, neurology, biology, chemistry, and physics helped me better understand what the individual person needs.
Yeah,
I
that's
love
really
that.
important. But also leads up for a more accurate assessment too. If you can come in and start with that, set the tone, and then get into it after. Because a lot of people are very
Yeah.
nervous. They don't know what to expect either.
Yeah.
Or they had,
And we
a bad day or
just
something.
we every single person that comes in my office, I tell them like, all right, let's do a toe touch. Let's do a back bend. Oh, so you're supposed to be able to rotate this. Oh, I didn't know that. All right, we're going to check your myotomes. We're going to look at the dural tube. All right, well, there's this tube from the base of your skull all the way down to your tailbone that your nerves come out of. If that's not sliding or it's stuck, it's going to cause muscle tightness or it's going to cause pain. Cool. All right, this is your L5 myotome. This is your, I tell them, I talk to them like they're physio students in the office. So at least they know what I'm doing. And I tell them the relevance of why we're doing it and how it's all connected. So
Yeah.
now we've empowered them with education about their body. And now they're becoming a student of their body because they should know more about what's going on with them than anybody else.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think that's so important in the bodybuilding space because so many of us are two things. One, we're very self-aware because of the sport that we're in, but two, we have tied our identity to what we do in bodybuilding. So when a practitioner tells us, like, you can't do this or you can't do that, you kind of start losing identity with who you are. So it's really nice to hear that you kind of teach and you don't just say, like, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing because of XYZ.
Yeah. If you don't explain the why, then people I'm a why person. My wife will see something online. She's like, "Oh, I saw that you're not supposed to do this." And I'm like, "Why?" She's like, "I don't remember." I'm like, "Then I'm not listening." Right? I need to know why am I not supposed to do this? Right? As soon as I have the why, then I can critically think. I'm like, "Okay, that makes sense." Or if it's a bullshit reason, I'm like, "That doesn't make sense." So I'm a why person, and most people are why people. There are very few people who are just like, "You know what? Tell me what to do. That's it." I'm like, "All right, that's fine too. I'll still share the information. They won't take it in, but at least they know I know what I'm talking about. And at
Right.
least they made the effort to share what I'm talking about. And if they choose not to, you're like, yep, that's all cool. Just tell me what I need to do. No problem. Do you want to know why you're doing this? Nope. I just want to get better. Cool. That's fine too.
I tend to want to over explain to my clients too, because especially as on the massage side of things, if you're not really explaining what you're doing and why, or not assess certain things beforehand, the client will be like, even if you do assess beforehand and you treat accordingly, they'll be like, I hear people come to me and say, oh, like I went to this person before and they only worked on this. But I didn't need that kind of thing. And I'm like, they probably did that for a reason. So I kind of explain why, like what we're assessing and why I'm treating how I am. Even sometimes it's not even just get the lotion, do some hands on. Sometimes I'll do some other stuff. And I
Yeah.
explain to them why we're doing that so they don't leave and be like, oh, I came here for that. Well, I want to help you get better. I kind of gauge and see what they want. Some people just want like I just want to relax and chill. I'm like, okay. Or I get my clients down to that maintenance treatment where we've done all the stuff. We're just kind of maintaining and seeing if we have to do anything moving forward. But it's important to over explain. So also in this kind of sport too, we're already very, like Eleanor said, self-aware and also very in
Yeah.
tune with our bodies.
Yeah.
So we're generally curious of why anyways, but I feel like over explaining is always something that I tend to do.
It's better to do over explain than not explain at all. And you're a massage therapist. You're there to treat, right? You do your movement assessment, you do your muscle test. Okay. Hey, here's what we found. Okay. Yeah, you got this back pain, but you have this hip that's not rotating. Maybe there's something going on with the hip flexors or the glutes. So I'm going to scan around in there. But the important thing is you're like, hey, I'm going to treat this area. I know it's your low back, but we need to go after these. The glutes are really locked down or the hamstrings are really locked down on this side. And then after the treatment, when they can touch their toes and they're moving better and they're feeling better, great. Well, you treated the right area, right? How's your back? Oh, it actually doesn't hurt. Well, because it was the hip, right? Again, you just explain to them why you're treating that area, but you set a baseline of movement. You set a movement baseline early on with an assessment to show where they're at. And if you made changes and they're moving better and they feel better at the end of the treatment, well, now you got buy-in. Now they're like, "Oh, shit, you actually got rid of that. Sweet." Like, they came in with back pain, but you treated my hip. Well, because the hip was the cause.
Exactly that. And also, okay, now we got to this range that we want. Okay, like let's reinforce that and now let's strengthen that new range that we found. Now let's have
Exactly.
you continue this until I see you next and then let's see how it feels after that
Yeah,
if you still have the
yeah,
same issue going on. Cuz I tell people if there's a reason why you're feeling this way. There's a reason why this is tight and why. And if it's something that initially happened, like say, oh, I did something to my back and now I'm here the next day, I'm like, well, right now that the body's trying to protect is tight enough to protect that area. And sometimes if we release it too quick right off the bat, you're taking that away and the body's like, whoa, that
yeah,
was my way of protecting. That's why I'm tight. Like
yeah,
sometimes we have to start with some isometrics or start with, working on other areas instead first before we get into that. Because
Okay.
they're going to leave feeling 10 times worse.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I like to tell my clients, muscles are dumb. They're only doing what the brain tells them to do. And oftentimes it's to protect, stabilize, or compensate. And if we don't find out why that muscle's switched on or toned up or painful, and we just go in and release it, we might have just exposed something. So we need to find out why is that tone there? Because the nervous system doesn't just switch muscles on for no reason. It's often for one of those three reasons. And if we don't train the body and the brain to do something different after we've released that muscle, it's coming back.
Exactly. And again, educating.
So, for any other coaches or practitioners listening who also may work with bodybuilders or other athletes, what's the surprising mistake you see even experienced professionals make when trying to improve their movement or their performance?
I'm going to lean into not setting a movement baseline. So every human being needs to move in these fundamental ways. Everyone needs to bend over, pick up stuff. Everyone needs to reach up overhead. Everyone needs to rotate, stand on one leg, squat, starting with some kind of movement baseline to see if there's any imbalances before we start loading it can be very helpful to clean up those patterns before we start loading it. So if we got somebody who squats and their single leg balance is a little bit off on one side because of an ankle issue or a foot issue. Well, when you load them with a bar, they're going to shift away from that and they're going to start loading that stronger side. Well, the first couple times it's probably not a problem, but you leave that there long enough, all of a sudden they're like, my right knee hurts, my right low back hurts. Well, because the nervous system knows that left side is weak. So we're doing this bilateral thing, but we're asymmetrically loading it. So now we're causing problems and injury that now we have to back off on training.
Right.
But if we found that problem, that little imbalance in the first place, and we fixed it, and then we loaded it, well, then it would have never became a problem. But oftentimes people just don't have a fundamental baseline of movement. And I teach my athletes all that they do this on their own. It's a 3-minute scan. They check their cerebellum, they check their neck, their shoulders, they do back bend, single leg balance, rotation. And then they're like, oh, my rotation to the left. I'm like, okay, great. What are 2 parts that you can go after? Do your seated rotation. Oh, I can't rotate through my T-spine. Well, you know what to do to fix it. Get on your foam roller, do some rib lifts, do some band pulls, and then do some thoracic bridges. Check the move. Oh, that feels better. Great. Let's go squat and deadlift now. So something simple like that, like the self-awareness movement scan that I created for athletes, it saves the coaches a ton of time because we teach the athletes how to do it themselves. And it saves us a lot of time of like, oh, let's sit there and troubleshoot for 10, 15 minutes. Well, now you cut into training time. But if you gave them that tool to check in on themselves, well, they already have their corrective exercises that they need to do right off the hop, and they don't need to bug you with it.
And then it gives them their autonomy to do it themselves too, right?
Right.
Like they're able to for their own bodies.
Exactly. They're like, this is tight. Go check it. You have a tool. You don't need to come to me, right? You don't need to go get therapy. It's probably just you maybe slept awkward.
Yes, you do.
No, like PT,
Yeah.
I know.
right?
Yeah.
Like you don't need to come to me for every little tight thing that's going on in your body. You know, when you can't manage it, then come and see us.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
this little thing, you can quickly correct it. So it saves coaches and athletes a lot of headache and a lot of time, but it empowers them to take ownership in their programming, but also, it leaves more space and time for programming.
Yeah.
100%.
I love that self-awareness body scan that you created. Where can like people listening, where can they find it? Do you have this accessible like on
Yeah, it's accessible. It's at amtcertified.ca. So there's programs up there. The SAM scan's there. For the clinicians and coaches listening, the AMT certification's up there as well. There's also a couple of training programs, one's for muscle ups and one's for handstands. Basically, I created 2 programs to trick people into fixing their upper body issues. So we go over a lot of self-assessment in these 2 programs. And
Cool.
by correcting the imbalances at the hands, the wrists, the shoulders, the spine position, the core, the scap,
Right.
we pattern in the moves because if the pieces aren't working, the patterns don't work. So I created those 2 programs to get people who want those skills in their back pocket to fix the small little parts so that they can progress safely.
love it. All right, you heard the man. Go check it out.
Yeah, do it.
All right, Tom. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This was an incredibly valuable conversation, not just for athletes and bodybuilders who need the deeper understanding of rehab and recovery, but also for even professionals supporting them and looking to improve their outcomes. So if you want to keep learning from Tom, you can find him on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube at Tom Swales. And also, if you're a therapist, trainer, or clinician looking to elevate your treatment approach, check out what he just said, the AMT certification on the amtcertified.ca website. And be sure to check out Tom's podcast, Staying Relevant, also available on Spotify and YouTube and Apple Music, right?
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Awesome. All
We're
Awesome.
right.
still working on that.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
having me,
so
ladies.
much.
Very welcome. Thank you. So just